Executive Director of Equity and Inclusive Diversity at the College of Southern Maryland. And on behalf of Workforce Development Regional Partners, the Tri-County Council for Southern Maryland, and the College of Southern Maryland, I'm very happy to welcome you to this IT and Professional Services Industry Virtual Town Hall. Thank you so much for being here this morning. The Tri-County Council and CSM have brought us together to discuss the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on Southern Maryland's IT and professional services workforce. Today, we will begin to develop together a coordinated workforce recovery strategy. We're here to learn what your needs are, what your pain points are, but also to hear about your successes and lessons learned during this challenging time so that we can begin to work together to chart a way forward through the crisis. Before we get started, I'd like to go over some housekeeping. First, a note that this meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be made publicly available and forwarded to all of you as attendees. Second, a reminder to please mute your microphones to minimize background noise distractions. And then also note that we have a chat area that you should feel absolutely free to post comments or questions in at any time during the discussion. Rochelle is our chat monitor, and so she'll just be keeping an eye out throughout our discussion for your questions and comments, and she'll read them aloud to all of us. With respect to our format, I'll begin with sort of an overview of this Getting Southern Maryland Back to Work initiative that's outlined in the white paper you've received and that this town hall, of course, is part of. I'll then be joined by two amazing panelists who will help kick off our conversation by sharing their perspectives on workforce recovery in the IT and professional services industries in our region. So we'll be joined by Marcia Chase, who is Human Resources Director at Naval Systems Incorporated, and Bill Campbell, CEO of Balance Logic. Again, please feel free to post your comments and questions in the chat area at any time, so including during that opening conversation with Marcia and Bill. After that conversation, we'll open the floor for discussion. And that's where we'll spend most of our time because we really do want to hear your perspective. At that point, we're also going to invite you to raise your hand so that you can speak if you like into the room. And Rochelle will let you know when you raise your hand when you can unmute yourself to speak to the group. So, the Getting Southern Maryland Back to Work initiative is a collaborative initiative of the workforce development arms of the Tri-County Council and the College of Southern Maryland to prepare Southern Maryland's workforce for economic recovery, a new workplace normal in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. These two partners are aligning federal, state, and local investments to provide industry-recognized trainings and certifications. These investments are enabling regional partners, including you, to provide targeted responses to critical needs, equipping Southern Maryland to respond agilely to the challenge before us, which is to redefine our workforce. You already know that the pandemic has caused unprecedented unemployment nationwide. You also know that Southern Maryland hasn't been immune to this impact. The Maryland Department of Labor reports that Southern Maryland unemployment has climbed to 8.4% as of May, up from 3.3% in March. The Getting Southern Maryland Back to Work initiative aims to create clear pathways for workers who are currently unemployed, underemployed, or in need of a career change as a result of the crisis. The initiative has three objectives: investing in emerging skill needs, responding to business needs, and reshaping workforce development for the future. And I want to say a little bit about each one of those. With respect to investing in emerging skills needs, the partners recognize that the pandemic is changing the knowledge and skill requirements of workers across our industries. Safety, sanitization, and remediation are now, as you know, common workplace practices, and employees at all levels require training in all those areas. CSM has already enhanced industry training to include COVID-19 awareness and safe workplace protocols. The partners are also preparing for emerging occupations that require new skills and certifications. They're developing new certificate programs for infectious control and barrier protection, contact tracing proficiency, community health liaisons, and more. To fulfill the second objective, which is responding to business needs, the partners are first and foremost listening to businesses. They're setting priorities and designing truly successful programs by forging alliances with the Workforce Development Board, which has representatives from our IT and professional services industries and other industries. The partners are also collaborating with our chambers of commerce, county economic development departments, and industry associations. They're holding town halls like this one. By listening to business, the partners have already created and implemented high impact trainings, including for organizations seeking to upskill their employees. Third, it's clear that we have to reshape workforce development for the future. We're being challenged to reimagine workforce development as adaptive, nimble, agile, able to respond quickly to changing needs. Getting Southern Maryland back to work is coordinating the efforts of stakeholders to provide critical training, capturing best practices, but also innovating, reshaping curriculum in both content and delivery. The bottom line is that this initiative is engaging all of us, our entire community, in building a responsive, high-impact workforce development system that will rebound our Southern Maryland economy. So that's why we're here. And now we want to engage you in conversation to examine your specific workforce recovery needs. To begin our conversation, we're fortunate to have with us two local business leaders, among leaders, as I like to say. Marcia Chase, who again is Human Resources Director at Naval Systems Incorporated, and Bill Campbell, CEO of Balanced Logic. Marcia Chase has worked as a human resources professional for over 25 years. Again, she's currently HR Director at Naval Systems Incorporated, which is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business headquartered in Lexington Park that primarily supports the Department of the Navy. Marcia has her master's degree in human resources and a master's degree in management from Webster University. She's also an adjunct instructor for University of Maryland, where she teaches classes in human resources. Marcia has worked in the health industry, public and nonprofit sectors. She currently serves on the Human Resources Associate of Southern Maryland Board of Directors. Bill Campbell is the CEO of the Waldorf-based company Balanced Logic, a leading provider of business support services, including managed IT support and cybersecurity services, website and graphic design services, full service marketing services, VoIP phone systems, and small business consulting services. He's also a managing partner of Ninth Degree Advisors, leading the business operations strategies discipline and focusing on advising CEOs and business owners of small and medium-sized companies with revenues of $5 million to $50 million. Bill is a decorated veteran, thank you for your service, who began his career in the military, devoting more than 8 years to the United States Marine Corps. He earned an associate's degree in business administration from Trinity College and University and holds more than 50 certificates in myriad business and technical subjects. He is chairman of the Charles County Government Disadvantaged Business Loan Review Committee, co-founder and chairman of Stay Strong with Cancer, and president of the board of directors of the Waldorf Lions Club. Marcia and Bill, welcome, and thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
So as you know, I have just a few questions for both of you to kick off our discussion. And the first is, just if you would, just tell us a little about the impact of the pandemic on your employees specifically and how you've navigated this crisis with them. And so I'd like to start with you, Marcia. What's happening at NSI?
Well, we have not been impacted as much as far as working ability because we're able to work remotely. What we are seeing is being able to make sure that we follow health and safety issues and making sure that our employees stay safe, making sure that we're following the guidelines. So when most of the folks do come back to work, they're feeling very comfortable. They're feeling that NSI is having the communication path open, keeping them abreast of what's going on. So I would say that would probably be any of the bigger problems that we're having.
Oh, well, that's good news. And how about you, Bill, at Balanced Logic?
I think the biggest challenge that we've faced is just adapting. You have everybody in your office space. You're used to having your morning, huddles together or your meetings and be able to ask your coworker right next to you, hey, what about this or what about this? And that's a completely different dynamic now. But everybody has adapted very, very well. We have a great team, but that's the biggest challenge. I think that's a big challenge for a lot of companies who have had displaced employees or employees that are now working from home. The biggest thing we found is there's a huge emotional impact. The feeling of uncertainty and not knowing if you have a job or not knowing if you're going to be able to serve your clients. And then the other part is worrying about your clients. Are your clients going to be okay? How can we best support them?
That's right. That's right. So thank you for sharing those experiences that you're having. And I just want to remind the audience too that, feel free at any time to sort of chime into the chat what you're experiencing. We want this to be an interactive conversation. And so Marcia and Bill, as we think about getting displaced workers within our region back to work, do you see opportunities for getting them connected to your companies, let's say in the next 6 months? For example, and I'll start with you, Bill, this time, is the crisis creating new kinds of work at Balanced Logic? And, I'm thinking, of course, of everybody going online these days. Are there growth areas in IT and professional services? And again, in particular with respect to your business, and if so, part two, what kinds of training might be required for these growth areas or these new kinds of work?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the whole business world has to make some major pivots around. I think there's more loss of opportunities than gain of opportunities right now, but I think wireless is going to explode. Everybody working from home, you don't have networked homes, so everything is running off of wireless. So I think the wireless technology is going to change. IoT, or Internet of Things, which is basically your smart devices, that's going to go through the roof. I mean, it's already, gaining major traction. I think that's massive. The implementation of security cameras, at your home, that's going to be a big thing. And I think the enhancement and growth of 4G, 5G powered systems, especially for telehealth, and being able, healthcare providers being able to provide service and diagnoses to their patients remotely. So I think the growth of learning about wireless technologies and learning about other things other than plugging your cable into your computer is going to be massive. And we take for granted that we think we know about wireless, because you have a wireless modem at home or whatever, and you connect your laptop sitting on the couch. But with that, there's cybersecurity is exploding, and it's just going to even take off like a rocket ship, because everybody working from home, you have bandwidth issues, you have wireless issues, but with all of those, it's going to create a massive cybersecurity challenge. It's not going to, it is right now. Currently, most people don't have a secure home. When I teach my cybersecurity seminars, people are very surprised that they buy that Netgear modem from Staples or whatever big box store, plug it in, and I'm good to go. It's a massive challenge, and it's a massive challenge for small, medium, and large companies, because now, employees are working from home. They're creating work. They're connecting to their offices, and so now all that data that was kept in the building is now exposed to your home and your home network. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for cybersecurity training. And I think taking somebody out of their home, it's actually very interesting. If you take somebody that's working in an office and you put them at home using the same computer, the same keyboard, the same mouse, it's amazing how they're not as productive because they're out of their comfort zone, So I think going back and getting people back into the workforce, I think it's going to be critical to implement some basic computer training. I'm not talking about turning your computer on, more of how do you really use Microsoft Windows? How do you really use Office? Because the biggest challenge is going to be productivity. And we use all these tools every day, but we really use 10% of those tools. We really use 10% of Microsoft Office. Here we are, the explosion of Microsoft Teams, what we're using now. A lot of people probably never heard of this before the pandemic. So I think basic computer training, basic Office training, skills in using video teleconferencing is massive. I've seen a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of team meetings. People are eating breakfast, they're brushing their hair. It's like, I think professionalism kind of went to the side now that we're getting more of, so personal with our meetings and things. But so I would say that to kind of recap, I think learning about wireless technologies, basic computer skills, Microsoft Office and productivity training, and not only computer productivity training, but actual productivity training and leadership training. Teaching people or managing and leading people in an office space is completely different than leading a mobile or remote team. So having employees learn how to be productive, not only using the technology they have, but time management and standard productivity is going to be very, very important.
Thank you for that, Bill. That is a lot of really valuable information. I think a lot about cybersecurity because, being at home, in this context, right, where that there's a lot of predatory activity happening, I feel really vulnerable. And, and I don't have, I think, the breadth of knowledge of cybersecurity to really feel confident that I'm managing my systems really well. So as an employee, I've learned some cybersecurity, but this is different working from home and the ways in which people might, infiltrate my phone and my laptop and all of that. And so that's really helpful to, to hear you say, yes, this is an area for growth, not only for professionals, but also for residents to be thinking about growing skills in. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Marcia, from your perspective, what growth areas do you see and what kinds of training do you see being needed? And also in terms of getting people back to work?
I think for me, I think would be collaboration and how to use some of the different network, as Bill has stated. You have all these different technologies, and if you were not computer savvy, you want to be a little more computer savvy. You want to make sure that you're engaging with your team. You want to make sure that, from a manager's perspective as well as from the employee, you want to make sure that you both still continue to have the same goals, and that ultimately it's the mission or your vision of your organization. And you want to make sure that if you stray off of that track a little bit, that everybody is staying cohesive, everybody still have the same ideas and goal in mind. And sometimes there is a disconnect when you do have this remote training, and you want to keep everybody engaged because it's very different. Like as Bill had stated, that we have the huddles, that's really nice, and you can have that collaboration in the room, but when you don't have that on a everyday status, you lose some of that. So you want to make sure that it's engaging, and communication is a key to keeping everyone engaged, everyone on top of the same mission, everyone on top of the same focus, making sure that employees do have the necessary things that they need to or learning the new skill set, because this whole remote thing is new for everyone, and how fast we had to learn, and making sure that your team is connected, and making sure that, okay, I want to be able to see everything and hear everything and engage, and I'm not getting up in the middle of things. So it's just little things really, and also the major things of the communication piece.
Yeah, and I think the little things are also in this context sort of big, in the sense of, a lot of you all are really pointing out some aspects of this really pertaining to leadership and teamwork. The collaboration is what you sort of started out with, Marcia, that, as we think about the more technical aspects of what we need to do to keep going, we might not be thinking about the teamwork, the collaboration, what we might think of as falling within the realm of soft skills, but keeping that in mind and cultivating our skills and our strengths in those areas being really important. That's really helpful to be mindful of. So thank you for that. Now, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like for both of you, neither of you are really having workforce challenges in terms of losing employees or needing to recruit employees, but I might be wrong about that. Are you sort of in a position now where you would like to be recruiting people, and if so, what what sort of challenges might you be having to recruit? I'll start with you, Marcia.
So I think for us, I mean, for our different contracts that we do support, we have a travel contract that we work on because the government is not traveling as much. So there are some challenges to that, and we want to make sure that we're addressing that. I would say the biggest one for that is not being able, because they're not traveling. So then that work productivity is not there. However, if we turn it over to there's training and also being able to learn new skill sets. So you want to kind of always make sure there's some cross-functional teams that, okay, if you can't use this skill, let's see what else you can do or how else we can elaborate your skills so that we are getting our maximum dollar. I also think that, when you're looking at this and you want to make sure that when people are coming into, so for us, the biggest thing is always normally having a clearance and being able to have the skill set that's required on whatever job we're recruiting for. So always being able to find those needs, always be looking for or recruiting in different areas, always want to, Southern Maryland, we're all tied to Southern Maryland, and after a while we've evaporated our resources, and nobody's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm stuck here. I want to stay here because I don't know what else is out there, and I don't want to be in a spot where I don't have a job. So it's the market is real condensed at this moment, and looking for some skill sets and things. So it gets a little hard if you can't find the person that you're looking for.
And so, are there any kinds of support, external support, that would help you in your role to meet those needs?
There's always training out there, and then I know Southern Maryland also has training. You guys offer certain trainings, so which is always an avenue. And sometimes it could be just taking additional skill set or taking like a project management class to enhance some of the skills. And I know you guys help with that. And now it's going to be a little difficult, okay, like how we're going to do that, because if you have this meeting, you want to be able to do it remotely because nobody wants to be in the room with 15 or more people. And, so they're looking at that and, that workplace safety. Are you going to keep me safe? So that's probably a little more challenging. Okay, I'll have a class you can call in, but are you going to hit all the folks that you need to? Because some people, they learn very differently. Some people want to be hands-on, and I have a question, I want to be able to see this, or I want to be able to touch and feel that, where the other person's like, just put it on the computer and I'll work through it. So you want to be able to kind of adapt to all of the different skill sets that you're looking for, and also your environment. Bringing those people in and says, okay, can I meet all of their needs and everyone be successful? And that's the biggest thing. You want people to be successful when they do take these trainings. So I think that's a different challenge now.
Yeah, good. And so the communication between organizations like yours and providers of training, workforce development agencies, could really be beneficial to tailor trainings to your needs and to the particular interests and preferences of the employees you have.
Correct.
Okay, good. Bill, how about for you? Are you facing any recruitment challenges? And if so, what kinds of support do you need?
Well, I think we're all facing the same exact recruitment challenge. I mean, the recruitment landscape has massively changed. You can't have big groups. There's no more conventions. There's no more career days that are in person. So I think the challenge is the same for everybody. It is challenging finding talent before, good talent, and it's even more challenging now. And then the landscape of everybody working from home. So when you're interviewing and looking for candidates, then I would say that, this is not what it is, but I'm just saying that most people are going to want to work from home. Everybody's still frightened and uncertain, so they're going to want to work from home. So that's a challenge. How do you, it's a whole nother discussion, an HR discussion or talent acquisition discussion of how do you base salaries now? Working remotely, working from in your office is a different dynamic. Is the salaries the same? Should they be the same? Is there different, amenities or benefits that come with that? And I think, so I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
For support for that, there's the same support that there was before. I mean, you have YouTube, you have, our great organizations in Southern Maryland, Workforce Development, things like that. But I think there needs to be a whole set of virtual training. There needs to be virtual interview training. How do you interview over Zoom or over Teams? It's completely different in person. One of the things that I taught, at DLLR and some of the other places, where you go in an interview, you wear dark colors to show power. You don't chew gum. You don't do these things, right? You be confident. Eye contact. All those things go out the window when you're interviewing over the on Zoom or something like that. So I think virtual interview training is got to be out there. That's got to be out there for not only people doing the interview and being able to speak on camera or speak through a Zoom meeting or Teams meeting, but the candidate themselves. How do they interview? Because you're going to judge somebody completely different, through a video teleconference than you are sitting there in person. Because we read habits, right? We try and find out people's personalities by looking at what they do, how they speak, how they look. Virtual career days, I think, need to happen. I think virtual business expos need to happen. Business expos are massive, not only for generating business, but for finding talent. We haven't had a business expo in Southern Maryland in years. I mean, we have the St. Mary's County, but not in Charles County. But I think we need to collaborate together, and we need to put a virtual business expo together. Another big thing, another training I think should be put out there is virtual resume writing services. One-on-one, how do you write a resume? Use the productivity tools we have. Use Microsoft Teams. Bring up that resume on the screen. Both of you together dynamically can go through it. I think that's a big thing. And another big thing, my last point, would be digital marketing. Traditional marketing is put on hold right now. Nobody's printing flyers and sending them out. We're not doing brochures. So digital marketing has got to be out there for business development, as well as your talent that you have. If you're designing business cards or things, postcards and things like that, is there a transition? Is there any extra training to make that all digital versus print? It's a different design. So I think that's some training. And then obviously social media. LinkedIn is the #1 resource for finding great talent. And I think if people learn how to use it, both sides, from a business side and from a personal side, a candidate side, I think that would be huge. So that's all my points that I had.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you both so much for these great insights. Lots of new thoughts churning away up here. So thank you both. And so now we want to invite everybody else into the conversation with you and with each other. But first, we have a poll that we would like you to participate in. And sorry, I'm shuffling documents here just so that I can make sure, yes, that if you go to your chat area, you'll see a link from Karen Adams to the IT and Professional Services Industry Town Hall poll. There are 3 questions that we would like you to answer there, and we'll give you a few minutes to do that. The first question is, if new hires for entry mid-level positions could possess a career readiness certification that affirmed their ability to think critically, analyze data, work independently, and communicate effectively, things that we've just been talking about, would you find that of value? The second question, are you interested in information on how to establish a structured work-based learning program that supports the continuous skill enhancement of your current workforce? And then question number 3, are you interested in participating in quarterly industry roundtables like this one that connect you to current students and recent graduates, provide you with opportunities to influence regional training programs, and encourages best practice sharing? And I hope the answer is yes, because these discussions this month have been incredible, and looking forward to this continued conversation with all of you. And I hope that you will also find great value and want to keep coming back. So I'll give you another 30 seconds or so to complete that poll, and then we'll jump back into our conversation. And again, if you're finished with the poll, think of a question that you'd like to share, and either raise your hand or post it in the chat for us.
Sybil, we have a few mounting questions, but some of which they've been so inclusive in their speaking, they have already answered. So if for those that have put some of the questions in, if you could just let me know if you still want them read, because I think they've answered practically everything. They've really been good.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, actually, Rochelle, if you don't mind, while folks are completing the poll, would you mind just reading some of those questions? And maybe there are others in the group who want to answer as well.
Okay, great. Yes. The first one was addressed already. With employees working remotely, are they experiencing challenges with broadband access and the lack of technology resources that's impacting your company's productivity? And that has definitely been touched on. If you have something else, that would be great. The next one was, what new opportunities have emerged as a result of the pandemic that has or is changing your business model or services?
That's a really good question. And so I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about that, and hearing from the audience as well. Like everybody is adapting, but you know, how has your business model changed as a result of all this?
I can speak to that if you like.
Sure.
So I think, it's minor yet major. You know, before we all work a 9-to-5 job, so to speak, but in the IT world, with people working home, you know, your home schedule is not a 9-to-5. It's more of a flexible. So maybe you start at 8:30, or maybe you start earlier and you're working later and you take a break for lunch or dinner, whatever it may be. We're finding that people want more support, help desk support, you know, technical support after that 5:30 hour, because they take the break, eat dinner. Now they're starting to work at 6:30, 7:30 at night. So for us, we've been really flexible and adaptable to say, okay, we're not closed at 5:30. You know, we're still taking calls and we'll still provide support on that flexible time. And I think it goes a long way with the relationship with your clients.
Yeah, and to, you know, add another point to that, you know, a lot of we have an opportunity to remain mindful that a lot of people are doing childcare during the day, which is also shifting their schedule. So we might find them working on weekends as well, because they're teaching their kids during the week. So that's an interesting insight, how that sort of shifts the support needs.
And I'm just going to elaborate on that. And you're correct, Bill. And I also still see that same group that started at sometimes at 6:30 in the morning, they still want to do that 6:30 until 3 or whatever their times are. But I also see that I see different groups. I see some groups that start in the morning and still don't get finished until night. Just like last night, I was having computer issues, and it started. He finally took my computer down at 5 o'clock because I worked all day, but I was with him until 9 o'clock last night, just trying to get the computer and making sure that, you know, I'm still servicing my customers and my employees during the day when they're asking questions. And then at night, you know, from 5 to 9, trying to make sure that my computer is working so that, you know, you can have these kind of meetings or being able to get all the information. And that's the one thing you want to, while you're working remotely, you want to make sure that you can service your client, your customer, the same way you did prior to the COVID-19. You know, you want to give them the 100% that you were giving them before. So I think that's you know, a key, and it's hard because we're all learning this as we go through. We're all trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what kind of people I have, how many vulnerable populations I have, what do I need to do to service them, how can I stay, you know, keep the value and the mission of the organization as well as service the employees from my perspective, you know. So that's also a big thing.
Thanks, Marcia. So Rochelle, I see a couple hands up.
Mute. Yes, and we still have a couple more questions, but the first hand is Scott Mahaney.
Hi, everyone. Really enjoying this town hall so far. At Booz Allen, one of the things that we've been really talking to our employees about is, you know, the lines are much more blurred now in terms of our professional life and our personal life. You know, my commute now is 5 steps out of my bed to my desk in our sitting room. And you know, I'm working 8 hours a day, but it starts at 7:30 in the morning and it doesn't end until 9 o'clock at night. So we're trying to, you know, provide more information to help people kind of organize and really truly establish, you know, the lines of your personal life and then your professional life. So, you know, that's one of the big challenges that we've been facing. I think the other thing that is going to be interesting to see is, you know, companies like us that are government contractors is, I think the delivery model has shifted significantly now, and the government has suddenly realized, hey, we can deliver stuff remotely. We don't have to have people sitting in a room, you know, cranking out code to build a system. We could have, you know, software developers sitting in Florida that could build this system. So it's going to be curious to see when we get back to whatever new normal is going to be, but what that operating model is going to be. And I think, you know, for bigger firms like us, it could be, we could take advantage of our size in terms of, you know, not having to have local resources, because, you know, attracting people to Southern Maryland is a challenge, but retaining them is an even bigger challenge. And, you know, if we can overcome that by utilizing the size of, you know, we have capabilities sitting over in San Antonio that we can deliver solutions for our customers here, we're hopeful that we can, you know, hopefully there'll be some sort of compromise, so to speak, because the mentality has always been, well, they pay for the body, they want to see the body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True.
Thanks for that, Scott.
That comment by Scott and Footstomp it. We're a small company. I work for Marcia here at NSI.
The other way around.
We face the same challenges, and I think, Bill, you touched on it as well. You're trying to recruit. We've still got a recruiting problem, but in the past, the client has been very resistant to teleworking and recruiting somebody in Tennessee to do software coding at Pax River. But what the client's discovering is that you can be just as productive, if not more productive, through a telework arrangement. So there's no reason why you can't recruit a guy in Florida to help with an IT project in Southern Maryland. And it also gets to, Bill, what you brought up earlier about recruiting and job fairs and whatnot. We've got a lower unemployment rate than nationwide. We've historically struggled to find certain types of talent. If we can open up that aperture a little bit and kind of look at at least a nationwide workforce, if you're dealing with national security issues, we might be able to do better and might actually attract people to Southern Maryland. You know, you start teleworking, you visit a few times, and you may decide, hey, this isn't a bad place to live. So I think that model may change, and it may provide opportunities for maybe more rapid growth in the tech sectors and in the high growth sectors. If we change our thought process a little bit on recruiting and how our workforce is managed. And I'd also like to jump in on the after hours thing. I found, you know, when I first started this company, you know, I worked, you know, whatever, how many hours it took, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I guess I've gotten kind of lazy in my old age. I got remarried after I lost my first marriage because I was working like crazy. And I kind of want to pay attention to my wife and the family I've got now. And
Good advice.
but the hits just keep on coming. I go home at 6 or 7, and then there's like 15 emails in the morning when I wake up, and a lot of them are action things. And somehow we've got to find that balance, in my view. I'm speaking for myself, and be able to turn it off, recognizing that a lot of people feel a lot more comfortable since their home's their office, working at night, 8, 9, 10 at night. But somehow we've got to manage that within our workforce so people aren't getting burnt out because they get the impression they're supposed to be available 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's that's my comment on that.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right, we really have some questions burning here. If we could jump in and get a few. Okay, let's jump around a little bit. We have a question. I'm scrolling backwards here, excuse me. All right. Okay, here we are. I'd like to take this question here. And it reads, what is your organization's plan to return to work outside the home?
Who is that question for?
Either of you.
I think for us, I don't think we're going to. I think that, we're doing it so well that, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but we're not going to go back to our office. We're not going back to a commercial office. We're doing it so well now. We're so much more productive. The relationship with our clients has grown. When you go through, issues like these, unfortunately, it builds a closer bond if you do things right. And I don't think we're going to go back to a commercial office. We'll assess it next year sometime, but I don't think we need to. We've adapted. We have a fully functional infrastructure, fully functional phone system. Our staff is so productive. Our clients are happy. Yeah, I don't think it would behoove us to go back to a commercial office space.
Wow.
And I agree. I think it's just going to be, our look and feel is going to be very different than it was before. You got to look at your populations of people that are out, and if they feel that they're not safe, to adapt to that information. If we're still providing excellent service to our customer, if we could do it, I think that's a big player in there. I don't see it going back. And if our customer is accepting and following what their rule of thumb is, if they're still, making sure that everyone's cohesive. So if we're getting out the work and we're doing what we need to do, I think it's going to look, our look is going to be very different now. So our models are going to be very different now, and how we do business is going to be very different now.
I would agree with Marcia and Bill with one footnote. We've got a small group. We hired some interns this summer, and the 20-somethings, particularly if they're working on collaborative projects, we have been able to do it by teams. It has worked, but there is a social desire there that needs to get met. And I'd be interested, Bill, if you found a way to do that, but occasionally somehow getting them together while maintaining social distance, while wearing masks, once in a while, I still see a need for that. And the facility has to be able to accommodate that for a team effort occasionally, not always, but occasionally. Be interested to know your thoughts on that, Bill, or anyone else.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge challenge. Typically in the workplace environment right now, that are people that are in offices, they're around everybody all the time. They feel comfortable, they feel safe with people, so they can be in the office space without masks on and things of that nature. But when you have everybody working remotely, you don't know what they do in their lives and things like that. So it's a little bit more hesitation. But one of the things we try to do at least once a week, usually on Wednesdays during our meeting, we'll have lunch. We do our social distancing and things like that. We actually have an in-person meeting to keep that socialism together, to make sure we still have that bond, that face-to-face bond that we have with each other. But I don't know if anybody has the answer. If somebody has that answer of, take a company that's much larger than ours, that's 30, 40, 50, 60 people, how do you do that if you're working completely remotely? how do you get people together safely if you don't know what they're doing in their personal lives and who they're with? It's like, I correlate it to technology. If, in your cell phone, right? You have your cell phone, you go to airports, you go to hotels, you go home, your kids are on your network, you don't know what they're doing on the internet, and you bring that cell phone into the office place. You just created a huge vulnerability. You may trust them, they may seem like everything's fine, but you bring that cell phone into that workplace, and now there's a vulnerability that nobody really knows. So I take that as the same thing as a person. You don't know what they're doing in their personal lives. They can be a great person and things like that, but you don't know who they're visiting, or if their family's over, you don't know who their family visiting. So getting everybody like that together, it's going to be a massive challenge. And I don't know who would have the answer for that. I don't think everybody would want to be sitting around your coworkers with masks on and laughing and joking. I don't know if that would be the most comfortable thing to do, but I think it would be probably a necessity. So I don't know what the answer would be for that. I just know what we do.
I do have a question here. Did Ed Rule speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure because I saw your hand was up. Now I do have a couple more questions if we have time.
We do.
We good? Okay, great. All right. Here's one. Do you see any issues with working from home and keeping classified and sensitive information safe? Either of you?
Well, that's always an issue. And, that comes with your ability. And remember that when you're working, your information is always, there's always that personal confidential information that you're working with. And you have to remember, because that's part of your own business ethics as well as your own personal. I need to keep this safe. I need to make sure that if I am discussing something that no one is around and it's relevant. I'm not sharing information. I'm not sharing any confidential materials or anything that I shouldn't. So that should be the ownership on the person, as well as trying to keep, it's the same rule of thumb that would be in the office, and people have to remember that. It's the same things that it should be expected when I'm in the office as well as I am at home, because just because my office is now my living room or my dining room, my expectations should not change. My expectations should mean that I still have that conflict of interest, that business ethic, that same responsibility that I owe to my employer. So it shouldn't change. It probably does, but it shouldn't. And we all should be adult enough to say that, okay, this is still expected of me, and this is what the expectation is.
Yeah, my point on that is, in working with classified information for, a good amount of time, I think it's a nightmare. I think that, there's two parts to it. You have the part that Marcia was talking about is the verbal information, right? Of talking about it, or when you're on the phone or whatever it may be, of being aware, but I think the other part of it, the more important part of it, and I don't know if this was part of his question, but classified information comes verbal and data, right? Or physical. So having physical classified information, whether it be paper, whether it be digital, in somebody's home is not a very good idea, because in a classified information or in a classified setting, you have controls in place. You have technical controls, administrative controls, physical controls. You can't turn your house on. You can't put those controls in your house. You can't stop your kids from doing this. You can't stop your neighbors from coming in. You can't have two-person integrity in your house. I mean, I guess you could if you're running that kind of facility at home, but but you can't have those protections at home, and it's my wife, or it's my girlfriend. But classified information is all about need to know. It doesn't matter if you have the classification or the authority, it's about need to know. So having digital or physical in a home or outside of that protected border is obviously not a great idea as well. The verbal part of it, I think it's a big challenge too. And like Marcia was saying, it's about that personal thing, being self-aware, being aware. Not that you should be talking about classified information over your cell phone or a phone anyway, but not everything has to have a classified designation. There's for official use only and sensitive and all those things. So I think there's two parts to that. So I hope I could answer some of that question.
Yes. We have another. As it relates to technology, what is your company's strategies for training for global competence in a rapidly changing world?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think, as it's always been, there is an infinite world of training out there. You have the world of YouTube, you have the world of Facebook, of social media, the world of the internet. There are so many different training sites that you can go to. You can go to udemy.com, $10, $11 a course taught by certified training professionals. There's just so many options out there that we can provide. So we use a variety of internal training with Me Training, as well as online training, free courses, paid courses. LinkedIn has a ton of different courses that you can go through, whether it's sales or business development or productivity. I know CSM is offering virtual courses now. So there's a plethora of training opportunities out there, and you don't have to shy away from them due to cost, because a lot of them are free or very, very inexpensive. So to be blunt, there should be no excuse why somebody doesn't have proper training.
Okay, we have a couple of comments as well. One was directed to you, Bill. We believe this will be the case for many businesses, and what you were speaking about earlier. The concern for increased commercial vacancy in communities is growing. Businesses can be much more transient with a remote working model. We have another comment here. Also, there's a challenge for those working from home with school-age children. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge challenge. I mean, I have a daughter myself, so it's a huge challenge. But it goes back to, I think part of it goes back to training. I mean, there's so many different dynamics, there's so many different things that are involved in people's personal life, how they parent, how they train, how they talk. There's so many different dynamics, but I think one part of it should go back to training. I think the two most important training sessions that we should provide our employees, or employees should look for, are leadership training and productivity training. You need parenting, and I mean, is there a perfect parent? Absolutely not, because I would say there's not a book on it, but there are several. But they're people's opinions. There's no perfect parent. Things are so different. So being a parent is kind of like being a leader. You have the end goal in sight. How do you get to that end, right? So that's why parenting skills are completely different, just like leadership skills and productivity. Just because you're not a boss, a manager, or an owner of a company doesn't mean you're not a leader. You have to lead yourself. And when you're working at home, you have to have the ability to be able to work as a team, but work independently. And you have to have that internal leadership for that. And then the other part is productivity. You have to learn how to be productive, whether it be time management or whether it be organization, whatever it may be. And I think those two big things will help in any household. But I don't think there's a solution, because parenting and home life is so different and dynamic for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have another one here. What specific IT body of knowledge are you expecting higher education to provide at the associate's, bachelor, and graduate levels?
I would say, when you're looking at this, it would be, first of all, when the IT would have to be relevant to whatever changes are needed at that particular time. So they're always changing. How we're learning and working with teams and the IT information is very different than it was 5 years ago. So basically how to turn on a computer and how to get files and do those things. Now it's going to be, how to keep information safe, how to work with individuals that are totally across country. You used to go in and says, oh, my computer's not working well. How can you as an owner, how can I understand my computer a little better because I don't have the technician right there next to me that says, hey, can you fix this? So I have to be able to navigate that a little better. I have to be able to navigate how to work on my computer, how to get around to some of the IT stuff. I've got to look and see what's going on in my environment to say, okay, we need to change. So your environment is always changing. In the IT facility part of it is always going to be changing also. So it just has to stay relevant to what the needs are.
And this goes in conjunction with that, and this is directed to you, Marcia. This is a big issue when multiple family members may be sharing the same computer at home. Breaches can become a major issue. Are businesses providing technology or insisting on certain technology requirements for their remote workforce?
I would hope that businesses are providing their own computers so that that information would be relevant. I would also, going back to what Bill said, you have to be in a role that says, okay, this is my office computer. As a family, we may have a computer and that's our family computer, but this is my office computer. I wouldn't want anyone to be on my office computer for anything, because I want to make sure that I am keeping that information safe. I want to make sure that I'm safeguarding it. So that goes with that also. I want to make sure that as a family, that if that's a resource that we need, that we address that issue. And if as an employer, you're providing your employees with all the tools that they need to make sure that they're doing the job as far as, the IT piece to give you all the things that you need.
Excellent response.
I think we have time for one more question.
Okay. All right. I got that one. Okay. We have some acknowledgements, and we had a hand raise from Letitia Pinkney. Letitia, your hand was raised.
I believe they answered my question. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay. If I left any questions out, I think it's...
Actually, Rochelle, I just posted one.
Okay.
So I thank Marcia for her answer to Ben Latigo's question, but I'm really curious if there are others in the audience who would like to answer that as well. We have a wide audience of IT expertise with us.
And they could also chime in on Barbara Ives' questions. Do all at-home employees have computers, company computers?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Well, hearing none, please feel free to post answers in the chat. So thank you, Robin, at the Calvert Library, for posting your comment about learning to learn. And so since we do have about 3 minutes, I'm going to, first of all, thank Marcia and Bill again so very much for sharing your perspectives and insights and knowledge and understanding of the situation we're in with respect to this crisis. This has really, really been helpful. And I think that we're going to see a lot of good new training developed in response to all the things that you said, and to those of you in the audience who also chimed in. Thank you so much for your contributions. I want to go ahead and hand this over to Ruthie Davis, Workforce Director of the Tri-County Council for Southern Maryland, who is going to close us out. Ruthie?
Thank you, Sybil. Thank you very much. This has been so exciting. I have 4 pages of notes relative to where we need to go with training initiatives in this new environment, which I'm hearing from most people that chimed in, isn't going away. It's going to stay with us. So just to close out, I want to say thank you to our awesome panelists, Bill and Marcia, for helping to lead this discussion. Thank you, Sybil, for guiding the discussion. Thank you, Rochelle, for monitoring the chat box. I want to also thank all of the industry participants that gave up their precious time to join in and add to this very important conversation. So thank you so much. You will receive an outreach piece within about a week that will summarize some of what we've learned and look at next steps for this industry as well as other industries in getting Southern Maryland back to work. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Good to be with you this morning.
Thank you all. Amazing conversation.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.